I used to finish the plate even when I knew I was full. Every time. I thought that made me weak. Not greedy exactly, just unable to stop once the food was there. I decided years ago that this was a character thing, something wrong with my discipline. 13 years of tracking what I actually do, not what I meant to do. Day 27 of a refeed, I noticed something that changed how I think about this completely, and it had nothing to do with willpower. The exact moment I noticed I was full, and for the first time actually stopped. Why finish the plate isn't a discipline problem. It's a signal you were never taught to hear. The one small shift that's done more for portion control than every diet rule I'd tried before it. Let's start with the plate. So here's what I believed for most of my adult life. Overeating is a discipline problem. You either have the willpower to push the plate away or you don't. And if you don't, that's on you. Soft, greedy, whatever word you want to use. I used it on myself plenty. It's not a fringe idea. It's basically the entire premise of most diet advice. Portion control, calorie counting, just stop when you're full. All of it assumes that information's already there, that your body's sending a clear signal, and the only question is whether you've got the character to listen to it. Made sense to me for years. I'd finish a plate, feel uncomfortably stuffed, 20 minutes later, and think, there it is again, no control. Here's the bit I never questioned though. What if the signal itself was the problem? Not whether I was listening, whether there was anything clear to listen to. My own data going back years, not weeks. Peak weight, Boxing Day 23, 18 stone. That number didn't happen overnight. It was decades of the exact pattern I'm describing. Plate arrives, plate gets finished, regardless of what my stomach was actually saying underneath it. Fast forward to last October, well into the health rebuild, that's still happening. 16th of October, 25, work stress that day. I ate a packet of lint balls and a bag of crisps, completely outside my normal eating window. In the moment, I filed it as failure, weak, no control, standard verdict. Except, and this is where it gets interesting, I looked at it properly afterwards. Wasn't hunger, wasn't even really wanting the chocolate. It was frustration that was wearing hunger's coat. But I couldn't tell the difference in the moment. And that's the actual problem, not the eating, not knowing what the signal even was. A few weeks later, 3rd to the 6th of November, 4 nights, running 4 to 5 hours sleep. Cortisol was up. My decision making was shot. I ate a full tub of shortbread, not one biscuit, the tub. Every single time my instinct was the same word, weak. 13 years of data, and I still reached for that word first. No dramatic intervention here, no technique I read about and applied. Nothing that I decided to do. It just happened. Day 27 of a refeed. This was during the rhythm reset, back end of last year. Mediterranean chicken tray bake, small portion, deliberately modest, sitting on the plate, and partway through, I was aware, properly aware that I was full, genuinely full. And I stopped. Not because I sold myself to, not gritted teeth forcing the fork down. I noticed the signal. I just honoured it. First time in years that had happened cleanly. Here's the closest thing I've found to explaining why. There's a researcher called Gin Stevens who makes this point. Watch a toddler at a meal. They eat when they're hungry. When they're full, they push the plate away. No social politeness, no clock watching, no finishing for the sake of it. They just stop. Turns out that's not the toddler being simple. That's the system working exactly as designed. What happens after years of clock eating, diet rules, clearing the plate because you were told to, is what buries the signal, not what improves it. Reconnecting to it isn't learning something new. It's more like the noise finally clearing enough to hear something that was there the whole time. Bit of an odd one to sit with, that. No GP conversation, nothing medical about it, nothing that needed supervision. It came out of the extended fasting and the refeed rhythm, doing what it apparently does. Quietly, in the background, letting the actual signal surface once the noise around it had settled. So was that a one-off? Well, here's what came after. 18th of October, day 6 of a later rhythm reset, planned a 4-hour eating window. Body said done at 2 hours, stopped naturally. Calories logged that day, 1256. Not restricted, just that's what enough turned out to be once I was actually listening. 2nd of November, happened 2 or 3 more times across that same week. Ravenous going in, properly hungry, breaking a fast, and then stopped earlier than I'd planned. Not willpower stepping in, the signal just arriving on time, doing its job. Compare that to a year earlier, well, longer, anything going back to 18 stone peak, where the plate got finished regardless. Same bloke, different signal. And I'll be honest about the messy bit, because that's the whole point of this channel. Day 24, that same refeed, 3 days before the breakthrough, I overate, piled too much on the plate, old habit, finished every bit of it. It wasn't linear. It wasn't, I learned the lesson and now I'm fixed. It came, it went, it came back, and then day 27, it stuck. And that's what real change actually looks like. It's not a clean line. I spent 18 years running my own business. I know how to build a system that works without you having to think about it every day. It turns out the same logic applies to your health. That's what this channel documents, what actually compounds when you get the inputs right. Subscribe if that's going to be of interest to you. What the data suggests, and this is one person's data, so take it as that, is that finishing the plate was never really a discipline problem for me. There's a moment from a bit earlier in the same process, 16th of October, stress eating. I logged it at the time and I've come back to it since. Awareness and willpower aren't the same skill. Willpower is brute force. Awareness is noticing the signal before you obey it. I still ate the crisps that day, but I knew why. And that knowing is where the actual change started. Not the moment I finally had enough self-control. Years of container sizes, portion norms, distracted eating, all quietly overwriting whatever my body was actually saying. Once the noise dropped through the fasting and refeed rhythm, nothing else, the signal came back. And when it came back, I didn't need willpower to listen to it. It was just there. 6 medications, statins, gout pills, asthma inhalers, allergy tablets, the lot. I stopped all of them myself in February 24, not because a YouTuber told me to, but because I'd had enough, and I told my GP afterwards once the blood test backed me up. If documenting that kind of thing properly sounds worth following, subscribe. When the conventional advice still applies, and it does properly in places, if you're dealing with a genuine eating disorder or a medical condition that affects appetite or satiety, just listen to your body. It's not safe advice on its own. And it's not what I'm suggesting here. That's a GP conversation, not a YouTube one. This is about the everyday, ordinary experience of not trusting yourself around a plate, not a clinical picture. If you've never had a diagnosis, never had the medication conversation, and you're just someone who always finishes what's in front of them, this isn't something to file away until it becomes a bigger problem. It's worth noticing now, before it's the reason you sat in front of your GP. Nothing here is medical advice, and I'm not qualified to give it. Please do speak to your GP before changing your eating pattern, especially if food and control feel like a struggle rather than an occasional habit. If portion control has been the thing you've quietly blamed yourself for, the Rhythm Reset Guide walks through the exact structure that did this for me, and the link's in the description. And again, this is educational content only. It's not medical advice. Please do speak to your GP before changing your fasting pattern, diet or medication.